Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Advanced After Effects Tips and Tricks. Today I'm going to be chatting about how to customize your motion blur to fit the project. Now, back in the day when I just started off with After Effects, I would have objects moving in my project, and I wanted more motion blur on those objects, and I don't know how to change this, so I just added blur effects and animated the blur effects to increase the motion blur on those objects. But there's a simpler way, and that's what I'm going to be showing you today. Before we get into it, please take the time just to like and subscribe to my channel. I know this is annoying, but this really helps us out, and it really costs you nothing to do that. Awesome stuff. Let's jump in. So here on the timeline, you can see that I've got this ball animated going from left to right. Alright, at the moment it doesn't have any motion blur, it's just an object moving, and it doesn't look bad. But if I had to add motion blur, you can see there's a little blur that's added, motion blur that's added as the object is moving. So if I wanted to increase that, the way that I do that is going to my composition settings, and you can do that with the shortcut Command K or Control K if you're on Windows. And if you go into your composition settings, to get to the motion blur settings, you click on this advanced tab. When you click on this advanced tab, you'll see there's a couple of options that's opening up. And just to explain these options so that you can adjust it to your preference, shutter angle is the standard angle for cameras, generally what you would get from a camera. But if you want to increase your motion blur, you need to increase this amount, and if you want to decrease the motion blur, you need to decrease this amount. So if you have to decrease this amount, say to 20, you'll see that the motion blur will go away. But if you want to add more motion blur, and say it was on 180, let's just go to 180 just so that we have a reference. Okay, so you can see there's nice motion blur, but if we have to maybe increase that to 270, you'll see that the motion blur increase even more. And if you want even more of that, you can go to 360, and that will give you a lot of motion blur. So generally you want to try keep this at 180 unless you need much more motion blur. And then the shutter phase, you don't have to worry too much about this, but this determines at what point the shutter opens. Samples per rate, that is the samples it uses for 3D projects. Okay, so if you have a strong computer, you can increase that amount, your picture quality will just be a lot better. And the adaptive sample limit, that is the samples it uses for 2D images moving in 2D projects. So also, if you've got a great computer that's strong enough, you can increase the sample rate just to give you a better quality picture. Alright, so that is how you change motion blur. I hope this tutorial helped and that you will go out and make some cool stuff. So subscribe and stay tuned for more advanced After Effects tips and tricks. See you next time.